Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of What We Do in the Shadows Private School. And I did not like this episode. I think it is definitely at this point the worst of the season and probably my least favorite episode overall. Pretty much saying that this is a bad episode. Now, granted, we still have good performances from the actors, but the content isn't really there here. There's one centralized story that they just use for one joke, and Nandor gets another joke, and they just keep hammering on it, and the execution just does not work. It's something that happens in like certain kind of comedy shows where you just have a certain joke and you keep going through kind of almost slight variations of it and then just keep beating it to death like a dead horse. It's we I really wish that they hadn't taken the concept like they were doing and just executed it like to just whatever kind of ends that they wanted. It just did not work, and because it took up the whole episode without like changing it up, it did not work for me. So the pretty much central conceit is that we see that Colin is getting into like terrible twos kind of thing, going around acting all nutty, waking up Nandor during the middle of the day, still taking hammers to walls. I think that's just being used as like, hey, look, this keeps happening. I thought it could have been used as like, hey, he's trying to do something, but no, he's just being an insane kind of child. And Guillermo's trying to like wrangle him as he's like running around doing all this shit. And Laszlo's kind of just like blowing it off. It's like, hey, at least he's not a bore. And I do like also another good aspect is like the costuming that they were having for the characters. But then we see that Guillermo's trying to like corral Colin, but then he gets a hold of a weapon, and everybody at least takes that seriously as they run off from that, and then he like essentially takes down one of the cameras from the camera crews. It's like, all right. So then the housemates get together, and Guillermo floats forward the idea of putting him in school, like public school, but Laszlo's like, fuck that shit, let's put him in private school, and not just like, yeah, we should be making trillions from the club. It's like, no, I don't know what we're making essentially at the moment, but not enough for that kind of stuff. And then we pretty much get into a thing where like Sean had like wrangled him because he was like doing shit in their garage, like, hey, yeah, there's like this private school, I know the headmaster, I could like send him your way. And thus begin the kind of rest of the episode where I pretty much got bored with it. Let's see here. Thing is, we pretty much spin wheels. We don't get really much character development out of this whole thing. We don't really get much plot movement on this thing. We mainly get one major funny thing out of this with the doll, and then just some small kind of things of what characters are doing on in the backgrounds. But it's just not even like in that's removed from what goes on with this whole headmaster bit. It's just kind of like tacked on. It's like, all right, at least we didn't have a complete waste of an episode, but it still doesn't save it for me. Let's see here. So the pretty much thing is they're sitting down. Guillermo's trying to like talk them through this stuff. I do like that it's them trying to interact with the human world and do kind of their own kind of thing, but they just did it in such a boring, simplistic kind of way, because they're trying to do this and he's like, hey, let me interview Colin's parents, and then they just start shuffling everybody around while Nandor is getting the Jinn to keep essentially doing cosmetic changes to his face to where his eyebrows look weird, and then he gets his eyes to be done a certain way, and he can't see. And the thing is, it's also brought up that, like, hey, if we need all that, and Guillermo said that, like, we can't really use it for private school because we need to, like, fix the house. And he's like, oh, no, I'm really low on wishes, so I really don't want to do that. But the thing is, we don't know how many wishes he has left. It would be really kind of cool that after this had been introduced, we get, like, a wish counter or whatnot, because it's very fluid here. I don't like that we don't have an understanding of how many wishes he has left, because there's a lot of things that I would consider wishes that he's been doing that you could potentially be like they're modifications of a wish, but that needs to be explained and not just done to be like, hey, this Jin's doing pretty much almost infinite wishes. And he just keeps doing that. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this for like philanthropy and stuff like that. I'm like, so you're just an asshole who could have used this to like make the house into a better shape so that way you don't have to worry about falling through the floor, flooded basement, all that kind of shit. And they just keep doing the same thing. His face gets nutty, and then he gets the Jin to like go back to square one. It's like, all right. I almost felt like the Jin in this episode just being like, all right, do this. All right, let me get through this. Whatever. And they just keep switching who's the parents, pretty much. Sometimes it's Laszlo and Nadja, even though Laszlo said that he was the uncle, and then it's like Nandor and Nadja, Guillermo and Nadja, Laszlo and Nandor, Guillermo by himself. The funniest bit was then, because they're hypnotizing both the headmaster and Sean, when they bring the doll out, and Sean's like, it's a fucking talking doll! And then, boom, they do him. And they had done over, like, a human is supposed to be able to, like, handle max about, like, 7 hypnosis kind of things. They did over, like, 400 or something on this one dude, on the headmaster, and he suffered a stroke and died. And it's like, damn, okay. What about Sean? Sean's evidently still okay. I mean, they fucked with his brain a lot, so I'm kind of okay with him being alright because of the interesting kind of dynamic he has with Laszlo and all the different kind of interesting things that he could be introducing within the show by itself. Which is like, alright. And that kind of screws them, so instead they just essentially keep putting Colin into all these sports leagues after Guillermo pretty much paid off like a guidance counselor at the school he used to went to falsify transcripts, and they just have him in sports leagues to run out his energy and then just like put him to sleep. Just like, wow, that was pretty much a waste of an episode, but okay. And then we see that Guillermo had like an interview with one of the documentary crew things, told him to say goodbye. And then we see that he has been embezzling money from the club, which, granted, he could argue that it is back pay paid and needed to be done. Now, granted, you could do it in a better way, but it really made Guillermo seem like an asshole. And I'm like, just because somebody fucks you over doesn't give you carte blanche to, like, fuck them over. And he's been, like, getting stuff for his mother. And it's like, okay. And then he tries to bribe the fucking documentary crew to, like, not say anything and to probably, like, delete the footage, but none of them take it. And I'm like, good on you, doc crew. And then we see him doing all this kind of stuff. And he's like, I'm doing it to help my family, even though they're both kind of my family. I'm like, yeah, you're kind of screwing one family member over for another. And there would have been a better way to do it of just being kind of paid. However, we then see that Nadja has been embezzling the funds as well and putting it in a hole in the thing and says, hey, yeah, if you tell anyone, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill your family, I'm going to have funerals for that and kill everybody else there as well. So, yeah. And I'm just like, God damn, you all fucking suck. Shit. It didn't paint them in the best kind of lights. Now, granted, I do like the balancing kind of thing of like, okay, they're shitty people, but sometimes they have the capacity and actually act upon being a better person. This was not that episode to showcase that. And it really didn't showcase a lot of the strengths of these characters and the kind of funny, insane, crazy situations that they can get into. It was just, it's like the showrunners got stuck on this one kind of joke thing, and they just kept doing it throughout the episode, and it just did not land with me. And now, granted, if you enjoyed it, cool. And if you really liked this and thought this was really funny, more power to you, alright? I'll never hit you on that. Like, if somebody's not happy with this season, that's cool too. I just was not happy with this episode, and actually really wouldn't recommend it to anyone. It really doesn't offer that much action, interesting kind of lore, any really character development other than the embezzling of 2 characters, and just like the asshole-ish traits of like Nandor that we've seen better executed ones done, funnier ones done, and have better kind of character exploration for him, other than he's a vain asshole who's saying that he's doing this for Marwa, but is just continuously doing it with the Jin's wishes. Yeah. So, I was disappointed, but this happens. Hopefully it doesn't become a trend. I do like when they experiment with certain things and it works, but I also am okay if they experiment with something like this episode, it doesn't work, and they learn from it and are able to better execute uh, a different kind of way for it going forward. So hopefully this one doesn't become a trend. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.